Hi everyone, and welcome to this week where I want to give you a short lecture on using social media as an educator. Okay, the first thing I want to say is don't feel like you have to use all social media platforms that are out there as an educator. It certainly can be overwhelming. You may have social media accounts already. You may wish to use some of them to your advantage as an educator, whether it's posting things that you're doing as a teacher, communication with your parent community through those posts, or possibly it's even locating teaching and learning resources that can save you a ton of time and help you connect with other people, as well as really kind of launch your own professional image and make you look really good. So the purpose of this short lecture is to identify some examples of what is out there in the world of social media and how teachers are using it, some examples of how it might help you as an educator. I'll finish off after several different examples with a little bit of advice, and that'll be it. So let's get started. So let's start with a very popular social media tool, YouTube. YouTube can be a fantastic way to find great teaching practices and resources. The ability to view video, view screen recordings, the ability to subscribe to channels and users or save videos as a playlist can be super helpful to you as a teacher. So you can find great teaching resources here. You can also, of course, find great educational content for your student that you can share through your learning platform. So here's one example called Pocket Full of Primary. She is a fourth grade teacher out of the US, and she posts lots of great teaching resources, all aspects of teaching. In some cases it's with technology, in other cases it's other different things such as organizing your classroom library or loads of other really practical pieces of advice. So she's really crafted a name for herself, but it can also be of value to you as you look to find resources. If you're interested in technology, this is a really great example of a teacher, again from the US, Mrs. Talk Techie. She also has a TikTok account, which we'll come to in a little bit, but she's got some great videos, and her kind of video newsletters also will have a lot of free templates that you can learn from. So things like these are really great because especially when it comes to technology, these people can walk you through how to do certain things visually, and it can really help you with that learning curve. So there are some other great technology specific ones. Easy Ed Tech is one. Again, a broad range of educational technology videos to help you learn how to use these tools with your students. Hey, good old ATA PD, this is where I work. This is the channel that I'm involved in. Don't feel like you need to subscribe to this channel. But anyhow, it's a brand new channel that we posted with some short professional development videos across a wide variety of different areas as well. And some of the channels, if you're interested at some point in your career of establishing a YouTube presence of your own, here's a really great link. I put it in the course materials below from the YouTube Creator Academy for building an educational channel. So lots of great tips for getting started and kind of creating your own brand. And for most teachers, this will not be a reality or any interest at all, but just know that it's a possibility if you ever wanted to become a YouTuber yourself as a teacher. So let's move on to Twitter. Certainly when you think of Twitter more recently, we think of a lot of political unrest and people expressing a variety of opinions and dialogue, and for some it can be seen as a very toxic environment. Other people can be seen as a really exciting environment. I just look at it as a vehicle, and teachers have been using Twitter for ages, for over 10, 15 years now, for connecting with each other, developing a professional learning network where you start to follow other people that you're interested in. So whether you're a music teacher or a French teacher or a technology teacher or just a generalist, there are lots of great dialogue out there. And there's so much you can learn through social media in terms of articles. Twitter, the nature of Twitter is that you can put links to websites, files, resources, videos. short bits of text where there can be dialogue and responses and commentary, back and forth dialogue between other people. So it can be a great communication tool and a great way for you to start to find resources. So how to get started? Well, sometimes it's as easy as using the search tool, and the search tool built into Twitter. And hashtag can be a way to get started. And so the little hashtag in front of the search tool, as you may know, automatically will, if you put it in your tweets, as you can see some examples here of the hashtag EdChat for education chat, it automatically links to a hyperlinked search of that term. So anybody who posts a tweet with that hashtag EdChat, you'll see them here. And it's a great way to find new people to follow in terms of ideas they have to share. It's also a very easy way for you to get into the conversation of global educators just by posting your thoughts and ideas and resources and putting a hashtag with whatever the topic might be. You can also get very specific. So this is an example of a hashtag math chat. So very specific and great resources that can be shared by a lot of different educators. There's so many different hashtags out there. And here's an example of a list of the best 100 hashtags for all educators on Twitter. You'll see this in this week's, I'll put a link to this. But there are all sorts of hashtags out there, general education ones, very specific instructional practices, right down to, if I scroll down, very specific subject areas as well. So whatever you might be teaching, if there's something you're looking for, just using a search with that hashtag can be a great way for you to find things on the fly, but it can also be a way for you to sort of build a tribe of people that you want to follow or that you want to communicate with, depending on your interest. And it can be a great way of learning. So TikTok. Now, when you think of TikTok, you don't always think of jump to education. It's a lot of entertainment, for example, but TikTok can be a great way for educators to connect with one another. Very short videos can be a great way of showing some specific instructional practices, sharing resources. And so here's an example of one, Madame Amanda Green, and I've put her link in there. She's a teacher, a science teacher from Beaumont here in Alberta, fantastic teacher. And she posts all sorts of different TikToks related to science education. And so she's a really interesting person. If you are on TikTok and you want to look for her, just look for that. MME Amanda Green. So she's and I put the link in our week's course materials. This is Mrs. Talk Techie again. Very short, bite-sized morsels of professional learning here with technology is what she provides. And so usually a short little commentary at the beginning. I won't unmute that. I've embedded a sample tweet or a sample TikTok of each of these people as well. And, she'll also follow it up with a short screen recording or pointing her camera at least at the screen to show you some examples of how to do things. So right on the fly, it can be a very simple and easy way for you to learn if you wish to. Now, if you want to search hashtags on TikTok, there are a couple that have a lot of teachers on them, and that is hashtag TikTok teacher. Another one is hashtag teachers of TikTok. So in addition to learning about various instructional practices or getting sample materials and resources, if we're being honest, TikTok can provide a great deal of entertainment. So it can be a fun way of sort of commiserating or, a little bit of comic relief related to various school-related things. So if you want something a little bit more on the entertainment side after a long, hard day of teaching and a little bit of learning, but a little bit of fun as well, TikTok might be your way to do it. So those are a few examples. Let me skip over now to Facebook. Facebook can be a great way to find great resources. And what Facebook is different from is that this is an example of a Facebook group. But when a Facebook group, once you've joined it, allows you to do is not only get access to resources, but because of the post and reply nature of Facebook, it's a great way to even pose questions. Hey, does anybody have a resource on this? This is the Alberta Teachers Resource and Idea Sharing. It is hosted by Alberta teachers for Alberta teachers. And as you can see there's over 13,000 Alberta teachers joined on this. And you have to sort of request to join, you have to apply to join this. And I believe as a student at Concordia, you would qualify. But they will then allow you in. It's nothing, they're not trying to sell anything. There's nothing like that. But it's basically, as you can see here, I haven't even looked at this lately here, but look at this. Does anyone have a good iPad app for early literacy or phonics? And they're not all technology related, but of course, with a lot of remote learning, there is a lot of that. And within a short period of time, this was posted 3 hours ago, and there are 5 comments. And there can be just a wonderful, wonderful community for people to post great teaching resources or seek answers, and it's very Alberta specific, so it can be a wonderful, wonderful location. I would highly recommend, even as a student, that you join this group if you are a Facebook person, and if you want to sort of connect that personal Facebook to your education experience, your teaching and learning experience. So here is the Alberta Teachers Association Professional Development Team, again, that I also work with. And we have a presence here on Facebook as well that we started about a year ago, a little bit less than a year ago. And it's a way for us to communicate professional development resources as well as upcoming professional learning activities. Here's an upcoming webinar, a free webinar for all our members. And I encourage you, if you're not already, to become a student member. I believe it costs $1. Another example of a Facebook group, there are some great, there's so many groups out there, very specific groups and also very broad groups. So this is a very specific group on a great book, which you'll learn about in future weeks in this course. This is not a reading actually, but the authors have a book club. So whether it's this book or any other educational book, it can be a great way to connect with other professionals. And sometimes the groups can be very, very specific. Some of you may have heard of the Bitmoji craze that started, about 8-9 months ago, and where teachers, in the absence of being face-to-face with their students when remote emergency learning or who were wanting to create more interactive, engaging, fun digital learning resources, used their own Bitmoji in the creation of these hyperlinked educational resources. And so how to do this and to share free samples and templates and so on, there's this Bitmoji craze for educators. And as you can see, worldwide, over 500,000 members. So it's just a great way of finding some ready-made resources, and it can be, you name it. If you are a kindergarten teacher, if you are a specialist of any kind or a generalist of any kind, there are several Facebook groups for you. Now that might seem overwhelming, all of these different social media platforms. And it can be. Heck, this is even Instagram. If you do the hashtag EdChat search, there's lots of educational content here for you and people you can follow. Again, don't feel like you have to do all of this or even most of this. And some of you may feel like you don't want to blend your personal life with your professional life. And if you are participating in social media, you might want to just not be concerned at all with anything school related. And that's totally fine if that's how you feel. But just know that if you are using social media, there are ways that some of these platforms can offer you a really great way to learn, get free resources, great ideas from other people, and it can be a way of building up your professional learning network. I want to show you an example. Social media can be a way to really promote yourself as a young educator. You're making a name for yourself. It can be a great way to promote yourself as an educator. Here is Caitlin Lazarenko. She's a former Concordia student. She's only been graduated a year or two. I don't remember exactly, but she works here at Elk Island Public Schools, I believe. Elk Island Catholic Schools, just east of Edmonton. And here's an example of one of her tweets. She was starting a statistics and probability unit, and students were a little intimidated. So she put some examples of some cool stuff she's doing in her classroom. And notice that she's not capturing any of the student faces or identifying information of the students, but still communicating to her parent community, to other educators, and to the world, really, that she's doing some great things in her class. So it's a great way, a great reflection on herself as a professional starting off. So it's good for her career in that standpoint. She's meeting and learning with a lot of people, both in Alberta and beyond. It reflects very well on her school division, so they like it as well. So consider that. If you are interested in using social media, it can be a great way of marketing yourself. Not saying that's why she does it fully, but just it's sort of a side benefit that when she's sharing these great things that she's doing in her classroom, and why hide that? Share that with the world. Let people know what a great young teacher you are, and it can be very beneficial professionally, and it can be very rewarding as well. And so I've included a link a little bit further. This is certainly not any sort of a mandatory reading. When we think about the ethical use or sort of some advice around using technology, there's a great free online course that's been created by some incredible Alberta educators, Barb Brown, Verena Roberts, Michelle Jacobson. All these ladies have doctorates and very talented ladies in the area of educational technology here in Alberta. And there's a chapter in particular by Heather Van Struen, and she's fantastic. I'll show you her Twitter profile here in a second, and it's in our class materials a little bit below. Just scroll down. But she writes a chapter on the ethical implications of teachers using social networks. So it is, it's probably a 15 or 20 minute read, and don't feel like you need to. But if you're curious a little bit more beyond some of the advice that I'm about to give you, feel free to check it out. She kind of puts it through two or three different lenses, different aspects of social media use. So in terms of some advice for you, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. You can see it right down here. So in terms of advice I have for you, if you wish to use social media as an educator, is number one, think very carefully about what you post and what type of professional teaching image you wish to convey to the whole world, because it does send a message. Fair or not, anything you post does send a message about you. It might be a good message, it might be a bad message. What you post during your social life, while as a young adult or teenager even, might be a great way of connecting with friends and building up your social cachet or that type of thing. Could be detrimental to you as a professional, depending on what's posted and how it makes you look. If you wouldn't feel comfortable with your students or your parents seeing it, really think carefully about whether that's something you should post. Some teachers who wish to continue to post personally will alter their social media account names to be non-identifiable, not your first and last name. It's a little bit more difficult to find you. But just know that if it is out there, sooner or later, someone in your school community is probably going to find it. And you wouldn't want it to be embarrassing for you or for your school division. That could harm you professionally. So think very carefully about that. And again, you can leverage that to be very positive, just like people like Caitlin and many other former Concordia grads are doing right now, creating some great digital presence out there in terms of representing themselves professionally. The second piece of advice I have is really think carefully about your students' privacy. Generally speaking, you don't want to post student faces and identifying information. And you're going to want very quickly before you start to do any posting from your classroom or your school, you're going to want to make sure you know what your school division's policies are around the use of social media. Do parents want you to be posting their kids' face or identifying information or video from what you're doing in your classroom to social media? Maybe not. So those are some things to think about. And as you saw in Caitlin's sample, there's another one here on the website. It really doesn't show specifically any identifying information of the kids. So there are ways to do this without including the kids. So really think carefully about that. Generally speaking, while there are some ways in some school divisions that have policies that with parent permission, you can post images of students and their faces and so on. In other cases, you can't. And it may come down student by student. And so think first before you post. I know you've heard that a lot, probably growing up even, but it is very true. Third piece of advice, generally speaking, it's not a good idea to follow your students on social media or their parents in terms of the parents and students' social media profiles. If you want to post stuff as an educator, great, that's fine. But following back students can be very detrimental and harmful to you. For example, if a student posted something to social media and you just happen to come across it in your feed, what if it was something very shocking or dangerous even? What responsibility do you then have to take action? And if you don't take action and something bad happens, what responsibility do you have? It gets very muddled and can go from harmless to really, really serious really quickly. The other aspect of this is the private messaging components or even public commenting that can happen with social media. When students and teachers or parents and teachers are communicating back and forth through these messaging tools built into social media, it can be super handy, a way of being reachable. But at the same time, if something was said, a conversation, if there were conflict, or if a parent was angry, if a student posted something inappropriate during that conversation in any way, or something you said were taken out of context, when it's done through your own school division's communication tools like email or messaging tools that might belong to your school division, Google Chat, Microsoft Teams, email, that type of thing, it is all archived and logged and fully secure within your school division's IT department. So if ever you encounter something he said, she said, they deleted that comment on Facebook Messenger or something else and it's gone and you no longer have proof of what was said or what wasn't said, you're being accused of something that you said or did, very easy to stay away from that controversy by just using your school division tools. It's all archived and logged, even in cases where it looks like a student can delete a message. It's never really fully deleted on your IT department's servers, and so you would be able to get access to it. And in the end, that protects you. Okay, so generally speaking, not a good idea to follow students and parents. Now, I'll tell you what, I've been out of the classroom, the elementary classroom, for about 15 years now. And I do follow some of my former students. They're in their 30s now, and it's really bizarre, and it's super awesome at the very, very same time. So that's a little bit different. But for students you're teaching or even in the school system, generally speaking, try to avoid it. Once they become adults and age out of the system, if you want to stay connected, it can be an awesome, really rewarding way to see them grow up, and you'll be amazed at the relationships you'll have for years and years to come. But what I'm talking about is just school-age kids. Avoid following them and their parents. Just a general piece of advice. It doesn't always work. There might be circumstances where it's necessary. That's fine. This is just general advice. Again, let me just come back to the piece of advice that I started with. And that was, don't feel like you've got to do it all. Don't feel like you've got to do any of it. Use technology where it helps you, okay? Where it adds value to your life as a professional. It can save you time. It can help you connect with other educators. It can make you look good and help you build your career. It can, be a great way of learning new things professionally. So, but only in the context that you want it to be, okay? Always be in control of that, and you make the decision of what works best for you, and that's different for everybody. So that's generally, that's the lecture for this week. Thank you very much. You can see all of the links further down, and at the very bottom of the page, I'll make another video for this week's participation task. Thanks very much.